Today I'm going to show you guys how to install a water methanol injection kit on a Kia Stinger. A water methanol kit will inject a water and methanol mixture into your intake before the throttle body. This helps to add extra octane so you can run higher boost levels, higher timing. It also works to cool off the intake charge, so it lowers your IATs. Both those help you make more power. I'm currently running the car on an E30 ethanol and pump gas mixture. For me, that involves me filling up a bunch of gas cans with ethanol because it's not available near me. So I've been driving up about 50 miles, filling up about 40 gallons of ethanol and keeping it in my garage to mix with every tank of gas. So that got old real quick. And so the water methanol tank goes in the trunk. It only sprays the water methanol when you're in boost. So if you are not in boost a lot, like I am, I mostly do daily driving, then this kit can be perfect to add that extra octane just when you need it. And it's pretty inexpensive. So I think this whole kit, this whole setup is around $600-ish from Burger Motorsports, BMS. You'll need a JB4 tuner, which I already have on the car. That's like another $400 or $500, but I pieced this kit together off of some used parts for around $300-ish. So I'm gonna walk you through how to install it. Bear with me, this is my first time installing this, but we'll figure it out together. Some additional parts I picked up from Lowe's was a couple of brackets to help mount the pump and the tank in the trunk. Also a couple of extra compression sleeves. So these go on the water line. All these are compression fittings, so I'm not sure the condition of those compression sleeves, so I went ahead and bought some new ones. This is like $2. These are like $3 a piece. I also picked up a sheet of plywood. We're going to use that to actually mount the pump to it in the trunk, but that's all custom stuff. You can do that yourself. I think this piece of plywood was like $13 or something cut to that size. I'm going to cut it down a little bit more to make it fit in the trunk better, but we're going to get this mounted up. The only thing that I'm missing from this kit right now is a FSB, the fail-safe box. That's what allows the JB4 to control the pump and the solenoid. So I'm going to get that at a later point and I'll patch that into this video. So where I'm going to mount this is going to be right in this little section here. A lot of people do it there. My plan is going to be to use these bolt down points right here to put the brackets, to attach the brackets to this area, and then hold that board and kind of let it sit right there. So here's a piece cut generally to fit here, about 16 by 12 or 13. You can come afterwards and cover this with carpet to make it match the rest of the trunk, but that'll basically fit in this spot, and we can mount the pump to this. Here's kind of how I'm planning to have it sit on the board. So this is what I came up with. I ended up mounting the pump and the tank on this side of the board, so that way it sits on the inside, and I can still access that cap and kind of see fluid levels. It doesn't take up any extra trunk space, not sticking out things to get hung up on. It takes a little bit of trial and error. So here it is mounted up. I ended up using a longer screw. Got this out of like a TV hardware mount, but you can match up that screw at any hardware store. So right now I've just got one bracket, so that way I can pull this out a little bit, pivot it out, and then push it further in for storage. So with that painted black, it'll look pretty good. Got room for the hoses and stuff to come out that side, and has pretty decent access for filling. Next, we're gonna undo this air pressure sensor. It's gonna be these two 10 mil bolts there. I'm gonna take out those two bolts, and we're gonna put this nozzle spacer in its spot. So this is basically gonna space it out. You got longer bolts. You buy this from BMS. And that's where the injector is gonna be. So this is gonna be what injects the methanol into your intake. You can tap into this pipe, so you could just drill a hole and skip this piece. This is like $100 or more, and just tap it into there. But this is more of a reversible easy one. So we're gonna undo those 2 bolts and put this in its spot. All right, so this line is gonna go into this fitting. I'm gonna install that there before we put it into the intake. So you see there's already a compression washer on mine, but you're gonna put this cap onto the line, and then you'll put a little compression sleeve on that. Next, you're gonna take that line and you're gonna tuck it inside of there and then screw that cap on, and that should compress it tight. So that way you've got unrestricted flow through there, and the sprayer nozzle with the small hole here. So this is big hole, small hole, and then this goes in the intake. We'll do the same type of connection at the solenoid at each end. So how you want to route it is up to you. A lot of people will run this first length through this piece and put the solenoid over there. Mine's a used kit, so I'm trying to keep all the hose intact, so I'm just going to tuck that under there, maybe catch a zip tie on that, maybe make a little bracket for this to mount onto something, maybe down there on that air box. I've tucked this under there. Again, you see another fitting. And next we're gonna run this bundle of hoses and wires through the firewall here and through the cabin to the trunk. So connected the ground here. Basically you wanna ground one side of this solenoid, the other side will go to the controller, which I don't have yet. Then you're gonna run a power and a ground wire, the thicker wires, with this hose through the firewall. So I'm going from the engine bay to the trunk. You could also go the other way. So a tip is to tape the wires to this hose so you can get them through the firewall. So I think the grommet that we're gonna go through is right here. Honestly, not too bad to get to. To start off, we're gonna go in the cabin and take off some panels to get access to that. So inside the cabin, this piece that goes under the dash, it just pops out, so you can use a trim removal tool or a screwdriver to get that. And you can just take this little, take the little clip for the light out, and then this piece comes off. So now we should be able to see, yeah, that wiring harness goes right through where we want it to come out in the engine bay. So with a lot of wiggling and having to go inverted, laying upside down in the seat, I was able to get this grabbing tool through that grommet. So this should be sticking through the other side. So with that grabber end snaked all the way to here, I'm gonna extend it, hook it onto this hose, and I'm gonna throw some electrical tape around it, and hopefully when I pull this back through, it pulls the hose too. All right, third attempt, got the wire through, taped the hell out of it with this, and we're gonna pull it and hope that it goes through. By the grace of the gods, we got it through. So now I'm gonna pull this hose, and next up we're gonna take off all this trim till we get to the trunk. You just pull this trim, this door seal trim out, and then this part should just pop out by hand. So you'll undo this guy first, and then we can get this guy off, and then we'll take this guy off and keep going back. Same thing back here. This pops off, then this pops off. You can run it through this line, and then if you give this a good tug, this comes up, so you can snake it back there, and then we're into the trunk where our pump is gonna be. So you're gonna have to undo this bolt here, and that'll get you to be able to run the line underneath this trim piece here. Now we can connect everything together. So you'll start by connecting this tank to the pump. These are just push lock fittings, so you're just gonna take this, push it in, and then it's locked. I went ahead and connected a plug on the end, on each end of one of the harness and one on the pump, just so that I can make this thing fully removable. But I'm gonna go ahead and install this, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So there it is, water methanol setup, easy to refill, can pivot that out. Had to make a couple of adjustments to help the line clear, but Other than that, that's pretty sturdy. Doesn't take up too much trunk room. And we got that run all the way through the car, through the firewall, up through the engine bay to our injector. So next we're going to install the fail-safe box, the FSB from BMS. Gonna connect that to the JB4. Today is a big day because my fail-safe box has arrived. So we're gonna go through the wiring and install for that. It also comes with this diode, which will, I guess, bridge across the wires for the pump itself. Apparently this stops some short circuiting of the fail-safe box if there's a grounding issue. So next we're gonna go under the hood and we're gonna get this wiring sorted out. This is pretty simple. The black one with the connector on it is a ground. That's just general ground for this. The wire is a little bit thicker. The red one goes to a switched 12-volt power source. Then these two, the orange and the blue with the pins, will go into the JB4. The green wire goes to the solenoid, so this will become basically, I believe, switched ground. It'll come from the fail-safe box to the solenoid, telling it to open when that gets sent there. Switch ground or switch power. And then this one goes to the power wire for the pump. So that will tell the pump when to turn on. All right, so over at the car, first I wired in the solenoid. So you've got one end that's connected to ground, got it grounded at that bolt. BMS says to use this bolt, but the connectors that they provide, like these spade connectors, don't fit over the bolt, and my grounding ring didn't either, so I'm gonna ground it here. So you've got that ground, solenoid ground, and the pump ground all connected here. Doesn't really matter how you do it, just get all three of those grounded somewhere to the chassis. I'm gonna leave the power for last until we get all the other wires hooked up. So next, I'm gonna go ahead and connect this yellow wire to the pump power wire. I like to use these heat shrink butt splice connectors. They shrink around the wire and they put out a little bit of glue. You can kind of see it there when they melt, which makes a nice like weather tight seal. Stops the wires from pulling out. We got the pump powered up. We got the solenoid to the harness. We also have the solenoid ground. We've got the harness ground. We've got the methanol pump ground over here. We got the line run. So next we're going to plug these two into the JB4 and get this one plugged into the fuse box. Then we just need to run to the trunk and install the diode and we'll be good to go. So we're gonna crack open this JB4. I believe we'll just be able to pry it open at these two spots. Be very careful not to drop those two screws, especially if you're working with this still connected to the engine bay. If you drop one of those screws down there, it would not be a good time. They do just fall out. So undid those two, this whole circuit board kind of just lifts out of that back. Next you'll see in there, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there are numbers on the pins. So orange is gonna go on number 3 and blue will go on number 16. So we're gonna push those wires through this grommet and then through the back of this. Probably wanna use a pair of like needle nose pliers or something. All right, so orange is through this grommet and it is pin number 1, 2, 3. You should hear a nice click when it goes through. That means it's nice and locked in. It's not gonna back out. Now we're gonna put the blue wire through that grommet and into pin 16. Okay, you can see those two shiny new pins in 3 and 16. Now we're gonna put this JB4 back together. Something I like to do is, I've heard the Bluetooth connector can get in trouble with moisture in the air, so I wrapped it with a plastic bag and some tape just to keep water out. I've heard the same thing about the fail-safe box, so once I get that installed, I'll also wrap that up. So for power, I've tapped into this fuse here with a fuse tap. So that just replaces the fuse and adds a second fuse. This is also called an add a circuit. So now I'm actually double fused. There's an extra fuse on this line here and one here. I notched the fuse box cover a little bit just so that it doesn't crimp that wire, and we're gonna get this cleaned up. So I definitely should have done this when I did this install, then I wouldn't have had to cut this, but basically we're gonna connect these 3 reds and connect these 3 blacks. So with that connected, it'll look kind of like this. So that's in line, kind of bridging these two, I guess. So the next thing is that we're going to run a purge just to make sure that the pump and everything turns on. So to start, you're going to take off these 2 bolts. I'm just added some distilled water in here, just so if there are any leaks, I'm not spilling like methanol. I'm going to top this off with water, and we're going to purge some water through the lines. This removed, you're going to put it into kind of like a jug, and then you'll be able to purge through the app. You'll go in there and you'll go in the water methanol settings, and there'll be a purge option. So in the app, you're going to take a look at the water methanol settings, and from here you're going to make sure that your signal scaling is set to 60. Then you're going to change the boost additive to 50. That's a good starting point, and make sure you set the boost PSI to 8. That'll be when it kicks on. Make sure you save it, and then you're going to change your map to map 7 to enable that purge. All right, so when you press this purge button, it'll purge for a second. So with everything buttoned back up, all the wires kind of cleaned up, got this tucked down there, got this all routed together, solenoid, this plug back in, these tightened down. We're good to close the hood, and we're gonna start doing some tuning. So next we're gonna talk about fueling. So you're gonna wanna go to the gas station that you're gonna be consistently going to, and you wanna fill up your gas tank with just plain pump gas or whatever fuel you're gonna be consistently running. Pull up this cover on the trunk, and then you're gonna remove this shroud here and remove the spare tire, and you'll get access to the battery. Once you're in the trunk, you're gonna do this nut right here and just pull that negative battery terminal off. I'll leave that for about 30 minutes. This is gonna reset the short and long-term fuel trims on your ECU so that your ECU can start fresh with the fuel that you're running now, including that methanol injection. So that way when it tunes in the timing for when you're in boost, it'll not be based on whatever you were doing before. It'll be starting fresh. This is super important whenever you're changing fuels or fuel blends or doing any additives or anything like that. So it's been over 30 minutes now. So I'm gonna put the battery back on, the negative ground back on, and tighten it up, 10 mil. Now we're good to start tuning. All right, with everything back installed, I'm gonna take this and pivot it out, fill it up with our water methanol mix for the first time. All right, so I'm using Boost Juice. It's a 50-50 mix from Snow Performance. It ends up being around 25 bucks a gallon shipped. There's also a way you can make this yourself with using the negative 30-degree windshield wiper fluid. That's about 70-30 methanol, and then putting about 4 of the yellow bottles of Heat, H-E-E-T, which you can get at Walmart. Heat is basically pure methanol, and I think it's like 4 bottles of that and 1 gallon of this will make it about 50-50 mix. But I'm gonna pour this into here. I'm gonna start off with like just a little bit, just in case we have leaks or something. I don't want it all spilling in my car. You wanna be careful because 100% methanol is like super toxic. So like 1 capful of pure methanol, if you drank that, it would kill you. So you want to be very careful not to get this in your mouth or eyes or on your skin, really. I also forgot to mention that pure methanol is also odorless, so if there's a leak, you're not gonna smell it necessarily. So I'm gonna actually mark this line with a piece of tape. That way I can see if any of this has like been leaking out or evaporating or anything. You do want to pay attention to that because it is in the cabin. Something I like about this location is that light like highlights it, so it makes it really easy to see the methanol level through that little section there. Okay, so it has been about 3 or 4 months of just my daily driving, and I've used about a half gallon of this water methanol mix. If you really get onto it, you could definitely use up some more of that, but for my driving, that's about how much I use in that length of time. So this has been way better than E85 for me. That's going to be it for the install video. I'm going to make a second video on kind of some of the water methanol tuning, so you can find that on my page. Thanks for watching, and drop any comments below and I'll try and answer them if you got any. Hope this helps.